Architecture and Cloud, GCC Transformation Leader, LSEG. Mr. Divesh Singla, recognized Global Operations and Digital Transformation Executive. And Mr. Pancham Taneja, Country Head for Delta Capital India. I'm not sure if Mr. Amit Talwar is here. He's not, yeah? Okay. So unfortunately, Mr. Divesh has a hard stop and has to speak first. So if we may ask him to speak.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here on a cold morning in Bangalore with a pleasant weather. So now we're going to have a panel discussion here to see what global business services is all about, So far, we have been talking about cost arbitrage. I think India and the people here in this country have gone beyond cost arbitrage, and we're able to add a great value to that. So today's panel is about discussing how and what can be done to go beyond this arbitrage and how the value addition can be done over and above what we've already been doing. So this is a panel, so we'll have a quick Q&A kind of a session. And at the end of the session, we'll open it to the audience for some questions. Thank you. And thank you for being here on a morning early enough here. So we'll go ahead with the questions. Yeah. Okay. I would like the panel to introduce themselves about yourself. You can.
Okay. Good morning, all, and thank you for making till here. I know it's a long drive, but luckily to have some folks, to known faces, to be in the auditorium and to talk to, and along with the wonderful panel. My name is Sridevi Hegde. I recently just created a GCC for fintech in US, which is Woven, single-handed. That's 260 people now. Prior to this, I have close to 23 years of experience in IT consulting and BFSI alone. That's a little about me.
Thank you, Sri. My name is Soumya Datta. I have around 23 years of experience, primarily last 12 years into GCC space. Beyond my technical infrastructure cloud side, I also work in the GCC maturity, more of cost to value arbitrage side, and glad to be here.
Thanks, Shom. Hi, everyone. Very good morning. My name is Divesh Singla. Most recently, I was the Senior Vice President, Global Operations and Global Head of AI Analytics for Signant Health. I was also the Managing Director for them for India and Philippines. Currently, I'm normalizing career breaks.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. My name is Pancham Taneja. I head up a consulting firm called Delta Capital. I come with about 27 plus years of experience across various industries. I've worked in aviation, I've worked in banking, and this is my third industry in terms of being a consultant. So I look forward to an engaging conversation. Thank you.
Hi. I am Suresh Kuruvadi. I come with 30 plus years experience in the IT industry. I worked with various GCCs right from the inception. Currently, I'm associated with a company called Vision Technologies. I'm one of the founder partners of this company. We are into the 11th year of operation, and we have grown from zero to a 500 crore plus company. So this is about the introductions, and thank you, everyone. So we'll jump into the questions. Okay. The first question to Mr. Pancham. How can global business services move from being a cost center to becoming a true value creator for the enterprise? And how do you know we have reached the tipping point that you no longer need to be a cost center?
Thank you. I think two factors play an important role in terms of value creation. One is obviously talent. You need to have the right talent in your organization to create the strategic value. Second is, and the most important one is ownership. If you're not owning the problem and providing a solution to it, I don't think you can create strategic value. Our history tells us that we've been 30 years into offshoring and outsourcing. We were purely execution centers and then started providing strategic value. And now, as the GCCs are growing, we are becoming more strategic innovation hubs. But it also depends upon the maturity of the GCC in India as well. The more, so the ones who have been here for longer, like 20, 30 years, have gone through the journey of execution, doing strategic value and now innovation. The younger ones are on the journey where they are providing probably execution and then will always take the curve to provide strategic value later in their journey. But it depends. Another interesting aspect is you have to figure out what's your why. Why are you opening up a GCC in India? Are you opening it up from a cost arbitrage perspective, basically purely execution, or are you opening it up from a cost arbitrage and strategic execution perspective? If you've defined your why well, I think then you will provide the strategic value and the innovation that is required for GCCs. Tipping point again is, I think, the maturity of the GCC and the talent that you have and what your why is. That's the tipping point. I think there is no one size fits all. You have to figure out when you're at the right moment in terms of the tipping point. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll add few points to that. I think you're right. And maturity curve is defined a little differently when it comes to large-scale GCCs, mid-market GCCs, and nanos, right? We are seeing they are coming up at different maturity level. But again, it goes back to his point of whether the resources whom we are and the leadership whom we are here, are we going to ready to take up the global roles? And that's where it starts, right? For us, the tipping point to become the more integral part of the global organization.
A couple of points to add. I think Pancham already mentioned the ownership, right? So the tipping point would be when you actually see the business is coming to you so that you are actually owning the end-to-end processes. Can be supply chain, can be P2P, right? You are owning the entire process from the GCC here, the GBS here, beyond your finance and HR shared services. So that's one tipping point. And the second is you are actually impacting the top line as well, along with the bottom line. And you're part of the process wherein the revenue or even the time to market, you are able to kind of impact.
Mr. Pancham, back to you again. One more question. What do you think are the low-hanging fruits?
In terms of low-hanging fruits?
In terms of innovation culture, moving away from a delivery culture to an innovation culture.
I honestly don't think there are low-hanging fruits in terms of innovation culture. Innovation is a very strategic and a very important thing, so don't think there will be low-hanging fruits. What drives innovation is that, again, goes back to your why. What are you here for? If you're providing just execution value, do you really need to innovate? But if you are here to sort of digitize the way your organization works, then I think you have to figure out the innovation culture in the organization. And the way you do it is that you are open to ideas, you're open to taking chances, and you're also open to experimenting with a lot of new ways of working. One of them could be, your talent spectrum is also from a junior to a very senior level. So you have experience, people who've kind of been forged in fire and have gone through various waves of innovation and changes. And there are youngsters who are coming in who are probably digitally native. I am not digitally native, I didn't grow up with that, but the workforce I'm hiring is digitally native. And they have a different view and different ways of working. So you have to respect their ways and views also, because they bring a different aspect to working. So the way we sort of celebrate innovation or encourage is it by encouraging our people to actually go in for industry hackathons, where they are able to justify as to why a thing should be done differently. We recently participated in a hackathon. Two of our teams participated. Varied versions of experience. One team was of coders who were about 3 to 4 years experience. One was interns who we just hired for internship, 4 of them. And you won't believe it, the interns actually got a jury commendation award because they thought out of the box. They were not afraid. They weren't carrying any baggage, of previous sort of known work. So they outshone the experienced ones. So you have to regard the fact that they're coming with brighter ideas, and you have to ignite the spark for them to innovate further. And you can do innovation hackathons, ideathons, but also be open about the fact that not ideas can be implemented. You'll get 100 ideas, but are all 100 being implemented? No. Probably one of those 100 has to be implemented. So open communication around how you want to carry your innovation plan is also very important. Thank you.
Great answer. And I think the term digital native was a good one. I think that makes a big difference in terms of the generation and the creativity in that manners. Okay, now Sridevi, next question to you. In an era of AI and skill disruption, what's the smartest way for a global business service organizations to future-proof their talent? What strategies would be most effective?
First, I think it's not disruption, it's actually the new wave, right? And the earlier in the address, right, in opening address, they mentioned about disruption. But I always see it as enabling, how AI enables us. And what an organization can do is it needs to be really in a structured way. First, we need to figure out in a structured way, end to end, that what are the skills, future skills required, and not the current, just the bridging the gap, even the future gap. For that, we need to run, obviously, skill mapping across the department, because it can't be, AI can't be just a program side run. It has to be end-to-end with all the department. It needs to be embedded within all. So we need to first do that skill mapping. Again, through AI only we can do. Then we need to have interactive or predictive way of finding out what are the skills you need to hire for next 10 years. That's very important, and that's where he mentioned, right, we are a little behind when it comes to computing. So that comes into picture, that we need to be prepared and find out the way that, we upskill to have those kind of resources hired and nurtured and trained. Mm-hmm. Then we need to have, we always say that, right, there's a job description and you need to hire for this. But we need to have, right skill mapped to those, roles. And that's very critical when it comes to, hiring. And it's not just about the responsibility, it's about the skills, what is required now and then. And that is important.
Can you mention some of those skills?
Again, AI fluency, right? When you see, everybody says, you need to have AI fluency. But say, for example, a market analyst, he don't need to worry about now to pull out the market research data, and AI tool can help to give you ready-made. But he need to be ready to give that edge and that analysis to the business heads that, okay, this is what I'm finding and this is what is the observation. And so that analysis skill he need to imbibe more. So that's where we need to train that person. So that could be one. And obviously we need to have right governance and in place so that AI need to be used in a right way.
Okay. One more question to you. Risks of misalignment with the corporate strategy, with GCCs being away from the parent organization's location. We need to ensure the initiatives of GCCs are aligned with the global strategies. How do you do that?
I think we are seeing this, and from beginning, as Pancham mentioned, which always, most of the organization came for cost arbitrage. But I think we need to look at now, as leaders also, that why and how, the reason, the actual reason, strategic reason why the global organizations is coming here. So in the initial phase itself, we need to align to the strategy. It could be cost arbitrage, but it can't go long, right? Somewhere we will hit the maybe break even that, okay, it might not be more cost effective, because there are many other nearshore and reasons where we had, for example, Mexico or Philippines or Poland. So the cost advantage or that competitiveness we will lose. So when it comes to strategic alignment, if you do not have, then what happens is, okay, it is just a outpost and you complete the job. So as a leaders, we need to have first thing is right sponsorship and right alignment of the sponsorship, and that sponsor need to be in the executive committee. So it's very important. And it's not only one. We need to have at least 2, 3 to do that, so that the continuity and the wise strategic alignment is required. And always, as one of the panelists mentioned, we need to have top line and bottom line impact also. And you mentioned rightly, right, being far, that are we not, knowing what is the customer, what is the business line, what is the outcome of product? Not really. I think the information, clarity and transparency, if we get in the organization, definitely we will know what is the customer we are working for, or what product we are working for the customer, right? And India market is so huge that we definitely can test any products here. It's not that, we can't, and that can be for the global. Yeah. So it's more about the alignment and how we will create our leadership pipeline here, who thinks strategically and align globally also. That's more important for me. I think, alignment to be more.
Yeah. Pancham.
Just wanted to add a point, which is to alignment is, don't see yourself as a GCC. You are a mirror image of your parent organization in India. So if you have all the verticals that your parent organizations have, you are strategically aligned and you will end up doing what the global business mandate is. If you work in a silo, first of all, you can't work in a silo. If you end up working in a silo, you really can't do much in that space. So GCC is a very India-centric term. My firm views us as Delta Capita globally and Delta Capita in India. So end up doing what the global offices do, and you'll be no different.
I have one question to you, extending there. If the team here is working in a silo, they work in a silos because they don't have access to the customers. The customers are all over the world. How do you solve that issue?
See, not every location will have access to the customer. Depending upon the client or the industry you're working for, your customer could be spread across the world and you'll have client-facing roles doing that. But what we usually end up doing is non-client-facing roles or very limited client-facing roles. I don't think it's a problem to be solved. It's just that, where it comes to relationship management roles, they are based in centers like New York or London because the client is sat over there and you need to be homogeneous to the time zone, wherever it is execution and innovation which doesn't require the client to be involved, then it is based in other locations like Sridevi mentioned about Mexico, Colombia, etc., or Philippines or Poland. It's happening over there as well. The point she made about losing our cost advantage, I think there is, Government of India is now promoting tier 2, tier 3 cities. I think we can actually take advantage of that and be competing with other geographies of the world, not just rely on tier 1 global centers, which we traditionally have. Thank you.
So, Suresh, I just wanted to clarify, in terms of the access to the customers. I think more than access to the customers per se, what is important is the context of what customers need, right? So if we talk about any industry, not all, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 employees of an organization would have access to the customers, right? No matter where they're based. When we talk about customer centricity, what is important to understand is that we understand as part of that organization, what is the problem that we are solving, how that solution is impacting the customer and their business, and how the solution is not only impacting the customer and their business, but also their consumers. Mm-hmm. So if I have to take a very simple example from life sciences and healthcare, we work with pharma companies. So for us, our customers are pharma companies, right? But at the end of the day, any drug that gets clinically developed or any drug that gets commercially marketed out there in the marketplace, that would impact the patient. So for us, the customer centricity is about the patients, right? It's about the problem that we are trying to solve. So I think more than the access to the customer per se, it's more important to understand the context of the problem that we are trying to solve, no matter what the scale of that problem is.
You mean the business ecosystem?
I mean the business problem.
Business problem.
Yeah.
Good.
If you look at the access to the customer, my customers are banks, global tier 1 banks. They have GCCs over here now. So I actually have access to the customer if I want it to be. I have the Goldmans, I have JP Morgans, the cities of the world who operate out of Bangalore and Pune and other centers. So if I want to create that network of connectivity, I can and I have. So that becomes a moot question that you have access to the customer or not. Depends. You're talking the end customer, intermediary, or whatever.
Okay, good.
Just to add a couple of points, right? So I used to work for a medical device company they had $32 billion annual revenue. Out of that, only 250 million used to come from India because their products are largely for the West. So in terms of the customer, customer interaction, customer alignment, right? I think one is definitely the headquarters largely come. Normally, they initiate the discussions on the cost arbitrage and then it moves to value. So initially, when it starts with cost, you will not get the exact, the visibility of the local ecosystem and all. And in this particular case, for this particular medical device company, you had a $250 million Indian business. So the GCC, the GCC which was created, they ensured that they connect with the local business and started solving some of the problems, business problems. And by doing that, headquarters also understood that hey, there's a local connect, local business is getting lot of business benefit. Business problems are getting solved by this center, and through that, it got a lot of prominence. It got a lot of visibility.
Very good point. Sridevi, one more question for you. How are the GBS organizations developing future-ready leaders? What impact does this have on the business?
I think, again, upskilling and reskilling comes into picture. But in what all they need to be ready to, pick up is, again, the domain knowledge. And also, they can shadow the leaders and, look at, again, functional leaders globally or even locally. They can do that. Then, technically, I think AI savvy being or maybe targeted learning need to do because it needs to be completely holistic. When the leader need to be a completely full round, to solve the business problems or think strategically. The third point will be strategically. Mm-hmm. And again, the fourth point could be the human part of it. Like empathy needs to be there. Maybe in future we will see that, all our leaders will have to manage both employees and bots. So we need to figure out what are the ways to train them and, nurture them. But most of it is, again, they connected to the strategy is very critical, in my view.
To add to that point, once again, Suresh, I think when we talk about creation or development of global leaders from Indian ecosystem, that is something which is not necessarily limited only from a GCC, GBS ecosystem perspective, right? Mm-hmm. But I clearly call out three things, which any India-based leader need to have for them to get the seat at the table when we talk about the executive leadership at the headquarters. The first and the foremost is the courageous transparency, which is for a leader to be able to raise the hand and tell it to the headquarters and say that, hey, the mandate that you've given me, either it's doable or it's not doable. If it's not doable, how it can be done, what are the kind of risks that we see, and have that level of honest, open, transparent conversations because that will lead to building the trust. Right? And that's a segue to my next thing. The leaders in India need to get over with the obsession around headcount. They need to start obsessing about talent. Any conversation that we are having, or most of the conversations that we are having, I don't want to generalize it, with GCC leaders, the conversation is about headcount. Hey, how big is your GCC, right? 500 people, 2,000 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people. The conversation for these leaders, the thought process of the leaders need to move away from this talent obsession to start talking about, the headcount obsession, to start talking about what kind of talent they have, what are the skills that they have built. And the third, which I believe is very important, is that there needs to be a strategic impatience in the GCC leadership ecosystem. And what I mean by that is, the leaders in India, the leaders of these GCC, we need to start adopting a mindset wherein we are able to accept the failure, rather quickly. So whether that is, so I'm particularly talking about it in the context of AI analytics. If, most of the winners, most of the companies who are adopting AI pretty well, most of the leaders who are leading that adoption, they kill the POCs, 80% of the POCs within 90 days. Only 20% of those POCs are taken into the scale. So that strategic impatience is something which will be required for Indian GCC leaders to be those global leaders and have those global roles being played out of India.
Okay. In that context, I would like to ask you one more question. You said there's an obsession about headcount, on how big is a GCC, how many numbers. Have you heard, and this is open to all the panel members, have any of you heard anybody, any leader say, my team is generating X dollars of revenue?
Yes, I can say that from my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two things. One, I mean, I'm trying to be very sure that I'm not sharing anything which is confidential, but the GCC that I led at Signant Health, and this is not about me, this is the leadership team that we had at Signant Health GCC, we had direct contribution to the top line of the organization. And that contribution to the top line of the organization was coming or was being driven directly by the innovation that was being driven from the GCC out here. So we did not talk about, or rather my leadership did not want to hear from me how many people I have. So when I joined this company, if I have to put the things in perspective, there were about 250 people by the time I left the organization. Only in India, we were about 800, 900 people. But that's not the feather in the cap. The feather in the cap is that 33% of our global patents were coming in from India. That, we actually had cut down roles in India. We moved those roles to our partner organizations because we felt that the tasks or the activities that are supposed to be carried out, they can be carried out in the partner ecosystem much more. The revenue generation was being done directly from India, and when I say revenue generation, I don't mean to say that these are the people who are into sales and business development, but this is the delivery ecosystem. We often overlook the delivery excellence framework and fabric that we've created out here, because now we suddenly want to go into the innovation. I'm not trying to demean the innovation part of it, but then delivery excellence is the backbone of the GCC ecosystem that we've been able to build in India.
I'll add to that. Yeah, in the current organization or the previous one, right, the Vervent, we never talked about numbers. Even though we scaled in 1 year, about 200, we were always talking about the number of functions we built. We built 15 functions, except sales, because again, he said, right, we need to be closer to the banks. 15 functions, and in that, some of them were the functions which were never there globally. Some of the capabilities which we built. So that was the one which we were showcasing. Plus, how much fraud detection used to happen here, and how much the leakage of the fund for the customers we had saved. Those were the kind of metrics we were talking. So it is never about numbers now, because as I said earlier in my talk, that more about nanos, mid-market, and small organizations are coming. So it's not number game. It's about the value, and again the right metrics what we talk about, and that needs to come through the leaders also.
I think the impact on top line and bottom line is happening. In my organization, we are selling the India proposition to the India clients. Like I sell to Goldman, I sell to others, and we are selling the India proposition over here. So we're not dependent upon our global client partners to do this for us. What I also feel is the aspect which gets overlooked is that we are enablers of a lot of revenue. I think people overlook that. If the centers are not here in India, your margins will look poor. When the margins look poor, your revenues and your EBITDA doesn't look as healthy as it should be. So that aspect of our work should not be overlooked.
Yeah, I think all my panelists spoke about it, right? So I think gone are those days when GCC maturity, they will look at numbers, right? So if I look at even if you are not creating a product from a GCC or a GBS which is directly impacting revenue, but your product is adding a lot of benefits to the top line by reducing your time to market, by adding customer satisfaction, and then you are adding to the top line, right? So even if it's not direct, there is an impact there. Second thing, I think Pancham mentioned about going gaga about GCC all the time sometimes creates a lot of conflict with the headquarter. So you are an extension of your headquarter, and you just remain like that and add value. So in today's time, I don't think the GCCs are going to start with 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. It's always going to be mini, micro, nano, very focused COE It can be analytics, can be Gen AI, can be blockchain, right? So in that kind of a paradigm, you don't go by numbers only, right? So you create business value and add value to the business, and then being relevant to that.
And Mr. Devesh, yeah. How can analytics, advanced analytics, unlock the enterprise-wide value? Can you provide a perspective?
Sorry, say that again.
Analytics. Okay, I mean, how can GBS use the data and advanced analytics to unlock the enterprise-wide value and provide predictive and prescriptive insights?
The advantage that the GBS or the GCC centers have is that they have finance, HR, procurement, supplies, marketing, all the different business functions sitting under one roof, into the same ecosystem. They have access to the data which not many parts of the organization or the larger organization would have. They have visibility to the problem statements much more because, again, of the proximity, co-location related benefits, the understanding that they are able to build end-to-end because of the operational excellence fabric and framework that I spoke about earlier that they bring in. So that's the second piece of it. The first piece was data and the understanding of the domain. The second piece is, to be able to cross-connect the problem statement, across the different functions. And the third, nothing can take away from the GBS and the GCC system centers is the technological depth that we have, right? So when we talk about the technology deployment in the context of AI analytics, that's something that is very strongly being brought in by the GBS and the GCC centers based in India. So that's the infrastructure that we're talking about, which kind of enables the GCCs to be able to drive the value from the data-based AI analytics and advanced analytics, to that value to be driven to the larger organization and to solve the problem statements. Those problem statements could be pertaining to, let's say, a simple day-to-day task, which is, I think, Sridevi mentioned about it, fraud detection. Now, fraud detection requires the data, fraud detection requires the right algorithms, and that is actually predictive in nature. When we talk about prescriptive, in pharma, there is a concept called as next best action. So what happens is, when a medical representative has to go and visit a doctor, that medical representative has the right insights driven out of the data based upon the level of engagement that the prescriber or the doctor has had with the organization in the past. So this data or these insights would then enable whether they should, when he or she is next visiting the doctor, whether he should talk about the quality of the product, whether he should talk about the side effects of the product, whether he should talk about the right patient population to which that drug should be given. That's an example that I'm trying to quote here, which is, and these are the kind of analytics that are being driven or being delivered by the GCCs that we have out here in India.
Great. Tell me one thing, this is an open question to the panel here. When we talk about leadership, I strongly believe that, you need to have the right leader to climb up the value ladder when you're trying to deliver to the parent organization. How important are product managers in this?
I think every cog in the wheel is important. Nobody's less important or more important. A leader is nothing without its people. And if people need guidance, they need the right leader. So whether it is a product manager, a process manager, I think all of them are equally important. I live with the philosophy of PPI. It's people, processes, and innovation. So you hire the right people, hire the right domain expertise. They'll take care of your processes, products, etc. And once you have the right people, happy people with the right processes in there, they will naturally innovate and do different things. So I don't think one is important than the other. They're equally important. They're part of a value chain. And one link falls off, you'll have a problem.
To specifically answer in addition to what Pancham just said, right? Product management especially in the context of technology-driven organizations, is a very, very important aspect, right? Speaking from my own example, I don't want to name the company. I just noticed we are recording here. Right. So the product management function for one of these healthcare technology organizations that I worked for, we had the Global Center of Excellence out here in India. Eventually, the chief product officer of this organization that I worked for was the leader who was initially part of the GCC ecosystem, if I may use that term, but going back to the India ecosystem. And this is the person who spent about 5 or 6 years into the product management function, leading the product management function out here in India, understanding the ethos of how the product development, offering development sort of works, and then be the chief product officer reporting into the CEO. So, that's the kind of, we don't see many examples of that. If I go back, quote another example, Ankur Mittal, who leads Lowe's, he is not only taking care of Lowe's India from a GCC perspective, but he's also the chief technology officer for Lowe's globally, right? So there are these examples. They may not be, frequently encountered examples enough, but we do have those examples wherein we do see, whether we look at product management, happening in India and that leadership then growing into the global leadership roles, or we talk about global, people from India taking on those global leadership roles in general.
Yeah, I think what he mentioned, right? So absolutely important if you're trying to drive an innovation center. I see that a lot of people are calling this center as innovation capability center, etc., right? So the leader, I think. From here on, you will see more and more GCC leaders will be hired. GCC head or a site head will be more of product leaders rather than just managing a site, supervising the facilities and all, right? So it will be definitely a trend going forward, wherein the GCC head will also have a product mindset and being in the center of the innovation life cycle.
Okay. One more open question to the panel here. Traveling across the world for the leaders here and meeting all the stakeholders within the organization, as well as the other people, the customers and the other entities which is related to the business ecosystem of a particular product or service. How important is that? I don't see that being emphasized. Travel is being more looked at as a perk than a necessity for a business. I would like to hear some comments on this.
I think it's a good point to dwell upon now. See, when we build the organization, obviously we talk about first to start with culture, right? It's very important. And how that culture collaboration or pollination or understanding between the both, because it's not necessarily that we need to have completely the mother unit culture completely here or here completely different than that, right? It has to be well balanced. So these travels enable that. And I always think it has to be both ways. It's just not be seen as perk. It should, because it carries the culture. It's the culture carriers we become when we visit there, understand, or even maybe proximity to the board, to the customers, or to the clients, it will help. That one part of it. When they come in here, they will also see that what kind of resources we are, how much they are urging to perform, what kind of skills, like when it comes to, again, we spoke about product managers or say data scientists or all those things. That all will help to see what is the ecosystem here or the startup system. So that and all they will learn. So for me, the traveling part is just a medium, but what it ends to lead to is very important, right? Knowing their culture and they knowing our culture. So those second months or even the short-term travels are very important to ensure that culture barrier is taken off and that bridge is created.
Any other points?
I think travel is a perk if you work for a travel company. Otherwise it's not. You're not getting free tickets or hotel stays if you're working for Delta Capita. So travel is necessitated because there is a need for travel, whether it's an off-site or whether it's a management meeting or a strategy discussion at a particular location. I agree with Sridevi's point. I think the culture needs to be built. What I've seen is, and I'll give you my example. We built this company in COVID, peak COVID. I started Delta Capita in Delta variant in India, so you can imagine the hard yards we've had to do to establish this company. So I haven't still traveled to my head office. My connects have been over Teams and Zoom, so very, very virtual, and it has stayed that way. But there has been leadership who's traveled down to India, which is very important because what I feel is that during a journey of 30 years of outsourcing, people who were matured understand the India value proposition. People who are time warped and think of India as what it was 20 years ago have a very static view of it. Unless they come down over here and see what the talent is, facilities are, our ecosystem in terms of tech parks, etc., it doesn't open up their eyes. I've had leadership come down over here with a view, and they've gone back with a completely changed view, and they become sponsors of India. So travel from that perspective is important, but I would definitely not call it a perk.
Yeah, and one metric I forgot to mention, in the current organization, 99% of them never worked outside US, leaders. So that was really important, and rather I emphasize not only the top leaders, even their minus ones also to travel to understand, because they are the one who work directly with the teams here. So that helped in a way. And again, from here also, some key people to travel, it always helps.
What about being part of international business conferences that's related to that particular vertical? A pharma-related international conference for a pharma GCC, or a tech GCC, or a AI GCC?
See, first of all, I think Pancham said that GCC is a concept which is a very India-centric concept. Outside of India, nobody talks about GCC as a term, yes, right? In my organization, it's my ecosystem peer pressure that I use the term GCC for, for my organization. If this ecosystem peer pressure would not have been there, I wouldn't have used the term GCC for my organization in India. And similarly, my CEO does not talk about GCC. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because the international conferences that we are talking about, they would not be focused on GCCs per se, number one. Number two, if we look at JP Morgan, that happens on West Coast every year, right? Or any conference for that matter. Especially when we talk about pharmaceuticals or life sciences industry, there are these industry conferences that happen, ASCO, ESMO, ISPOR, multiple conferences, right? So absolutely my team members, my colleagues, me, we have traveled to be able to be part of these conferences. And that was more for us to be able to get the business context that we've spoken about earlier.
That's important.
What's happening in the industry.
Yes.
What are the new therapies that are coming in? What is it that AstraZeneca is saying when they are on a podium out there? What is it that that Roche is saying or Novartis is saying? So yes, from that perspective, the conferences and attending these conferences to be able to gain that business context is utmost important, and it should be, it should be done. Now, I'll slightly tie this back to your previous question around travels. See, what also happens is that when a member of a team, from let's say India, travels to one of these conferences, they not only get to learn and understand more about the business side of the context, but excuse me, they also get a lot of international exposure. At the end of the day, that international exposure is important because people, the customers whom you're dealing with, the profiles whom you're dealing with are not necessarily Indian profiles and Indian customers, right? These are all international profiles. So yes, going back to your question, I think these, they are not frequent. I've had teams of about 2,500, 3,000 people, so I wouldn't say that all of them have been to these international conferences. It's not more than 2 or 3% of that population who actually get to go and be part of these conferences. One last thing, and I'll hand it over to one of my panelists, co-panelists, is that we have, like in my organizations, in my tenure across Eli Lilly, IQVIA, Parexel, and Signant Health subsequently, we have also made sure that when someone is participating on those international conferences, that's not purely a delegate participation. There has to be either a poster presentation that is happening, a paper presentation that is happening, or a speaker opportunity that gets kind of brings in.
In terms of international conferences, they are so domain specific And India GCCs are not domain. We don't lead a vertical per se. We are more horizontal. I have view of all 4 verticals of my organization. Although my core domain is one of those verticals, but I don't lead it because I'm leading the site. So does it make sense for me to go for international conferences or anybody to represent? Because wherever they are happening, we have representation from Delta Capita in that location. So I think it is fulfilled from there. And again, I don't want to see this as a badge of honor that we are representing in our company. I think if we are able to send our people to these conferences, GCC conferences and conclaves, it is a happy medium because they're getting exposure to what the industry and other peers are also doing.
Okay. On this front, I would like to add my couple of points, right? One of the things that I see that, in terms of horizontal, we are very good in our country. There's no doubt about that. In the international contexts, we don't see anybody talk about GCC. It's purely a India-centric terminology. What is important in terms of growing up the value chain is understanding the vertical. I think that is something that the focus is missing in our country very, 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 very badly. So being part of these conferences will give you the business context. You will understand where my product is going, why my product is going, what feature and what functionality of my piece of code, what I'm doing, who is using it, how is it being used, why is it required, why is it even required, is it required or not? That understanding we miss. So the vertical is important. And I don't know if any of you have come across or written any JDs, job descriptions when you're hiring people, where you don't mention anything related to the horizontal and entirely, completely vertical.
I'm so glad that you're bringing it up, and this is the conversation that we need to have, more and more on these forums, wherein we are discussing about the future of GBS and GCC organizations. We don't talk enough about domain expertise.
Exactly.
We talk about technology, we talk about operational excellence. I'm not saying they're not important. In my trifecta, it is like domain expertise, operational excellence, and technology, depth is important. So domain expertise is something that we need to build. There are a lot of organizations which are already doing it. We are not doing it as much as we need to, or we should be. Probably the need was not there. But now with the kind of advent that we see of the GCC organizations getting embedded into the parent organizations, the kind of roles that we are seeing at the GCC organizations being built, the kind of aspiration that we see the GCC organizations harboring, the domain expertise is going to be absolutely important. And you see more, again, I'll go back to the same thing, a lot of examples are starting to emerge wherein I think Sham said this, the GCC leader role is not going to be a glorified admin role anymore. It will be a GCC leader role which will have a combination of a functional or a P&L responsibility. And for that, you need domain expertise.
I think I will...
Sir, before you go ahead, is there anybody you have come across who has a P&L responsibility? Great. Excellent.
So, and I have one of my ex-colleagues out here who took on my role after I left the organization. So in 2 of my organizations, I was lucky enough that I was trusted by my global leadership enough for them to be able to give those P&L roles, and that was a P&L of about $130 million, which was being managed in addition to the GCC leadership role from out here, based out of India. So, and again, I'm probably a very minuscule example in this kind of context. There are many other examples that are there wherein the global P&L roles are out, are being managed by the GCC or from the GCC ecosystem. They are not as many as we would want to, or as many as we would like to, but they are there.
No, so what I was saying is the domain knowledge, right? I think that's going to be the differentiator for sure, right? Today, if you look at, you get a dime a dozen analytics professionals, right? But then how many of them actually understand supply chain? And especially in today's time when there's a lot of complexity in tariff and the overall complexity has increased, it is extremely important to understand that. And along with that, I will also add the compliance and regulation part, right? largely the technology professionals are, quite a lot of them lack understanding of compliance and regulation. And across the globe, in India, DPDP is a great example. DORA, Digital Operations Resiliency Act in EMEA. In US, a lot of new regulations coming. So, along with your domain knowledge, standing up compliance and regulation, I think is going to be a differentiating factor.
Good.
To answer the question of P&L, we were set out to be execution center, but we took it upon ourselves to create a P&L of our own. So it wasn't handed over to us. We were forthright about the fact that we're going to sell the India proposition in India, and hence we created. So we might be a very small fraction of it, but we do have a P&L. We impact the top line as well. And again, to the point of domain expertise, depends from industry to industry. The industry I come from, banking, I think we have built that domain expertise in India. It's just a question of not representing at international forums because that domain expertise resides in those foreign shores as well.
Great. I would like to open this to the audience for any questions to the panel here. Anybody, any questions? Yeah.
Divesh, you just spoke about domain expertise. Now, there is a belief that AI is going to either will or can replace domain expertise. Any thoughts on this particular topic? Because organizations are taking decisions based on this.
I think just my one take, it's my view, it will enable when it comes to the amount of cases it can bring up to even some of the cases like either in life science or in this. But I don't think so it will replace. That's my view. It can enable with as many examples, but again, it's end of it, it's human decision, right? Which will bring up to the domain knowledge. Like, for example, simple doctor, right? Doing it, even the operation can be done. But how much you all sitting here can be, giving happily yourself to a robot, okay, it'll complete and okay, my operation will be succeed. That maturity we are yet to reach for me.
I think AI learns from patterns and used cases. It doesn't evolve on its own. So I highly doubt that AI will have domain expertise. It can learn what I understand because I probably have kept a journal of it, but can it think beyond my journal? I haven't seen any sort of, with conviction, any use cases to say that AI will empower or take on my intelligence or think beyond my intelligence. So I am a little circumspect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a slightly contrarian and a slightly audacious view to it. I think, yes, AI is percolating when it comes to the domain expertise. And see, the definition of domain expertise is slightly different the way we kind of think about it. Domain expertise could be the functional understanding of how, if I have to talk about my industry, of how a drug works, what is the pathophysiology of a particular indication, and if that is the kind of context that we are talking about, absolutely AI is taking over. The other context to domain expertise, as we were discussing earlier, is the business context in terms of the kind of business problems that we are solving for. AI is a sort of a digital twin when it comes, to the contextual understanding or the domain expertise as we are speaking about. Last thing I would say on this front is, yes, there is a significant percolation of artificial intelligence happening. It will continue to happen. Many are sort of defining this as an AI bubble, and it's yet to see on where we can take this bubble. But as a significant, as a very excited AI enthusiast, I believe that while artificial intelligence is percolating in every sphere of domain expertise, technological advancements, human in the loop will be required. And that will be required not only from the ethical and compliance-related aspects, but that will be required for us to be able to ensure that the kind of algorithms that we are building, they're working the way they need to be. So, yeah.
Okay. We talked about domain expertise, right? Only a human would know whether your bottle should be 4 centimeters thick or 10 centimeters thick, right? So when we are designing a bottle, we need to know the size and how a human uses it. And I don't think AI can predict that.
As of now, I don't think so.
Okay. Any other question? Can we close the session? One
Can
question.
you hear me? Okay. So we've been talking about GCCs are not about cost arbitrage. It's also innovation, value, and leadership. Of course, innovation we can discuss about it. Value, there's a commercial value. When it comes to leadership, I mean, where are we? I mean, in terms of, we talk about supply chain as a factory run in India, as a shared services, or HR, or product development, IT services. How many leadership roles, global leadership roles, do multinational companies trust to be operating from GCC? I mean, is it too long to get there? Any thoughts? Because you all come from a GCC background.
We spoke about it. There are a number of global leadership roles that are being operated out of the GCC ecosystems, based out of India. The nature of these roles could be slightly different. We've seen increasingly the CDO, COO, the CDAO, if I have to expand the terms, the Chief Delivery Officer, the Chief Operating Officer, the Chief Data and Analytics Officer kind of roles, the Chief Technology Officer, the Chief Information Officer kind of roles that are being delivered out of India. Once again, I will place that caveat. We don't see this to an extent that this is 50% of the total leadership population out there. No, the percentage is very low. But these are the kind of roles that are being performed, that are being delivered from the GCC ecosystem in India. We also spoke about Chief Product Officer. The roles that I don't personally, and I would be happy to be proven wrong in this case, the roles that I don't see or I don't envisage being performed, the global roles being performed outside of, from a GCC ecosystem are more commercial facing roles. So these are the Chief Commercial Officer, Chief Marketing Officer kind of roles, which need that level of proximity that cannot be kind of gained if the person is located in India or in that GCC ecosystem. So I think the context of my response to your question is more the location and the GCC ecosystem, but if we take away the location out of it, and if we talk about the GCC leaders graduating into the global roles, that is happening, not to the same extent as we would want it, but then we are scratching the surface. It's a journey. Over the next 5 to 6 years, we will see this happening much more as we start gaining that domain expertise, the operational excellence, and the technological understanding.
It's already there. The global roles are there. I myself have done a global role, and trust me, it's not the easiest thing to do when life starts from Singapore, India, EMEA, and US, so you're constantly on the clock. And it will continue to grow, but let's not assume that it'll continue to grow in the way GCCs are going to proliferate in India. So the ratio and the percentage is going to be always low. You will not see too many global roles being run out of India in the near future, but it'll grow.
Okay. Thank you everyone for your patient hearing, and thanks for the panel for very wonderful answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If I may ask Mr. Narayan to come and hand over mementos to our speakers, please. Mr. Divesh Singla. Mr. Soumya Datta. Mr. Pancham Taneja. Ms. Sridevi Hegde. And thank you, Mr. Suresh Guruvar. Thank you so much. Before we get our next panel in, if I could ask Mr. Sonu Gupta, the founder of Coders Brain, to come and give out a couple of awards. These are the GBS Leadership Excellence Awards for 2025. Mr. Augustus Azariah. Okay, please come. Mr. Shiju Soman. Mr. Raja Narayana Swamy. Mr. Chandrasekhar GV. Ms. Anjani Madhavi. Ms. Fauzia Kumar. Mr. Shivi Mittal. Mr. Pradeep Rao. No. Mr. Sri Harsha Narasimhan. Mr. Arul Armugam. Ms. Biyani Dash. Mr. Shashidhar Sharma. Mr. Anil Kumar Savalagi. Dr. Suman Ghosh. Ms. Anuradha Prashant. Ms. Shweta Jain. Ms. Deepthi Nath. Mr. Amit Talwar. Mr. Winkle Chadha. Mr. Samir Venugopal. Mr. Amit Agarwal. Mr. Biswajit Chatterjee. Mr. Krishnendu Pal.